gun was held at my head and the towel was ripped from me and I was on the floor. The front door also came in with another person with another gun. Be present. Pay attention to every word you say, how you think, feel, what your beliefs are about you. Just pay attention.
I feel a lot of the time you need to be sort of selfish towards yourself in order to be selfless.
You don't have one brain, you have three. And the other two are more powerful than this one.
Tracey, welcome to Triangle Theory. Thank you so much.
Do you know what? I'm so happy to be here. Yeah, thank you so much. It's been really good just to get to know you before this as well. So you're super cool.
Yeah.
Perfect. We always take time to kind of get to know each other. But one of your podcasts, when we were looking back on it, you said asking people how are you, not the surface level, but how you truly are. So I'd kind of like to start the episode with that question. How are you, Tracey?
How am I? I am very content. I feel very humble today and very powerful. I've had a busy day with people, with hypnotherapy and coaching, and it's been a really good, productive day. So yeah.
Amazing.
And how about you?
I'm really well, actually. It's been very busy in the last few days, ups and downs, but I guess that's why it makes the life a bit more interesting in a way.
Yes. Yeah, and you?
And you?
Truthfully, I feel like more sort of aware within myself, I think more than sort of ever, like at this point in time.
Love that.
I feel like, you know, when you kind of come to those points or chapters in your life when sort of doors close, opportunities present themselves. And I think regardless of situations or obstacles, like opportunities sort of, it's not so much an obstacle, but more of an opportunity. And I think as I slowly navigate sort of the business world from a day-to-day perspective, I'm sort of feeling more aware of myself and my daily actions. So I feel very present today.
Good.
Which is great.
No, we all in the
We're all,
right
we're all in a quite
We
content
are.
place,
Yeah.
which is great. But I wanted to sort of start by saying, you know, someone that's involved in a space where it's helping others, bettering yourself, understanding and being aware of yourself. Where do you feel in your journey that all sort of started? If I can sort of take you back to a place of where Tracey started to be more aware of not only herself, but wanting to reach a helping hand to others. Was that something that was always in you?
Do you know, I think I've always been quite empathetic. I've always been that person that people go to talk to.
Yeah.
I didn't really know why, but I suppose that's a superpower that I have, which is great. I realised that I wanted something different in my next chapter when, as I think for a lot of people, COVID had sort of hit, or the pandemic, right, had hit. And I just found myself in my office going, like, I loved my career, but right now I'm sort of out of love with it. And what's next? And in that moment, I found myself being sort of transported back by like 30 years at this sort of crossroads in my life again. And I'm that old. But I just thought I need to make a change, and I did. So I did what you guys are doing and started a podcast where I told my story to help others. And I suppose that's where it all started, was, yeah.
Do you think it was sort of coming from a place of knowing that your story will resonate with others and sort of, I suppose you're kind of also discovering yourself within helping others in a way? It's sort of a way for you to connect with people.
Well, I didn't know who I was anymore.
Okay.
And so that is by me telling the story. Not only was it me being vulnerable, because for such a long time I wouldn't be. No one would ever know my story. But it allowed me to open up. It made some others feel uncomfortable around me, knowing these things, even my partner. When he's listened back to my podcasts, he was just like, what? But it allowed me to explore who I am again, and actually to love where I came from, and to accept that I had to go through those things to be right here today, to do what I do today. It's been, I think it's every day is a discovery of something new. Every day is a school day, as they say. And I learn something new about me all the time. Yeah.
So you mentioned that being vulnerable kind of help you to open up and become this better version of yourself. And I think that conventional idea of being vulnerable is kind of viewed as weakness instead of the strength.
Yeah. And I think with, and I suppose, so I was working with an ex-veteran, and, I said to him, what is courage for you? And he said, well, that's vulnerability. Because without vulnerability, you don't have risk. You don't have, all of these other things. Like, you have to be vulnerable. That's your strength. For me to go into, Afghanistan, I need to be vulnerable to do that. Like, I have to be. That's my strength. That's my courage. And that's the same with us just opening up and talking as well. But a lot of the time, everything within us, our mind is saying, no, I'm going to protect you, and I'm not going to allow you to be vulnerable, but I'm just going to stop you from doing all of these great things in life.
Why do you think that is? Why your own mind tries to stop you from achieving good things that would...
So our program starts really, really young. So between the ages of 0 and 7. And whoever you are surrounded by or experiences, that becomes your program. So it could be that, I don't know, you've been in a situation where you had a bad spelling test one day, and then you went home and your dad made a flippant comment and said that, oh, you silly boy. Well, then you automatically think in your program that you failed at that and you're silly. That does not leave you as you get older. We're like sponges. So our brain then goes, well, we're going to protect you. I'm going to protect you, so that you never put yourself in these positions again, ever to feel silly or stupid or whatever that is, or to fail.
Hey guys, thank you so much for making it this far into the podcast. If you have any feedback, then please let us know, as we always want to make this podcast better. So hearing from you is always a pleasure. Please subscribe to all of our platforms, get involved at Triangle Theory. If you've got any comments, or if you want to share any topics that you think that me and Conrad would like to talk about, then please get involved. We'd love to hear from you. Thank you so much.
So then you're a perfectionist that's always trying to achieve, and and then that's a whole cycle of mess as well.
It's like sort of those natural survival instincts that we take on, and I can totally sort of see, from examples, like when you're trying to be vulnerable, it's a way to give yourself self-love, but then also there's like a conflict there, because you're like, I need to do everything in order to protect myself from traumas or experiences that I've had, where I may not even know that those are my responses to that, because it comes from sort of like almost a subconscious space. And I know that we were talking about earlier how you kind of almost stop yourself just from having your subconscious. It's so, I always try and say it like, your conscious is like navigating a room with a torch, but then as soon as you sort of tap into your subconscious, it's almost like someone turning on the light and the whole room sort of illuminates. But sort of going back to that place, sort of being in your corporate office, how does one sort of develop self-love and say for themselves and go, this might not be for me, I want to make a change, I have to go against the grain? How did you get to that place of like, I deserve more, I want to go for it?
I think my daughter was actually one of the reasons that I decided I wanted to see her. I didn't want to be in the city and all over the world from 6 a.m. or away, 3-4 days a week. I just didn't want that anymore. And I got caught up in a lot of noise. If you'd have asked me then who Tracey was, she'd have been busy, you know, overly driven, perfectionist, that did suffer with imposter syndrome. And actually, it didn't matter how good I was or how much I achieved, I still had this imposter in me and this lack of confidence. But you wouldn't see it because I would show up and deliver.
Mm.
But I wasn't, nothing was connected anymore. I was that company. I wasn't Tracey. I was a robot.
Yeah. It's almost like you've identified so much of your own identity with the things that don't necessarily make up you, Tracey, right?
Exactly.
Like you're going in and it's like being a cog of a feeling, I imagine, like being a part of a machine and not necessarily having any sense of self.
Yeah.
And then sort of going, well, hang on a second, what does it mean to be human, and what do human experiences mean to me, and how can I have more of that? Do you think that that's where sort of another level of motivation comes to sort of help people through that and sort of just getting people to understand their own sense of self?
Well, no one pauses long enough to understand their sense of self.
Yeah.
Because when you do, when you stop just for 5 minutes in silence, thoughts come up, feelings come up. And what do? We deflect, we scroll, we drink. We do so many different things not to go there.
Yeah.
But I call it that, I say it's like our inner child going, I'm here. Like, we don't need to be in this mess. We have a choice.
How do you tap in the inner child?
Well, that would be in a session that we do together.
I'm really excited
I'll take you
about
there.
it.
Come
I'm really excited about it. I'm probably gonna sob on a podcast for the first time.
You know, where everyone does. I've done one session where they haven't, but in the second one they did. So it's completely natural. Absolutely.
Yeah, totally.
Because it's emotion. You have to feel emotion, energy in motion. If you suppress it, you are going to get disease and all of that awful stuff that just messes you up.
So you mentioned that you were kind of, or were like very high performer, working in corporate world. What do you think was the core driver of your overperforming? What happened to you in a childhood or in your life that made you to go to these lengths?
Yeah, great question. I growing up as a kid, I suppose I grew up in a really nice village when my mum divorced from my father, and she worked a lot, so we didn't see her. So we didn't really have as much, I think, as everyone else. So it meant that me and my brother felt that we had to fight harder. I've always been really tiny. So, but inside I'm 6'1".
Yeah.
So I'm always competitive in sport, super, super, super competitive, the same as my brother. And I think like a moment for me that changed everything was when I was 15 and I used to do track, and my thing was the 100 metres. But everything is sort of against you when you're doing this at a level like for your county, because everyone that's coming in is like nearly 6 foot and, you know, they are just built differently. So everything was against me. However, that is when I started naturally. I just had this competitive spark in me. Like, I didn't have the spikes that they had. I didn't have the private training that they had. I just had me. And instead of getting on the school bus to school, I would run to school and I would run home. And I'm not talking just up the road, like it's long. You know, I would do extra track when no one was at school anymore. I would just work, and even in my mind, I would run and run and run and run that race. I even envisioned these spikes, which were like bright orange and white Reeboks. I didn't even know if they existed, but I was like, it'd be super cool if they did. And my grandma, I'd spent some time with her, and she said, you know, you'll win. I was like, yeah, thanks, Grandma. But everyone's thinking like, I'm going to come third. Like that was just, and everyone was laughing. You know, people were like, why are you even doing this? Like, you're up against Kim and, you know, these others. And Kim's my best friend now, by the way. And I just said, I am going to win. And she said, I've bought you some spikes. And I was like, oh my God, what? I've got these spikes. Not like hand-me-downs, which is fine. But, you know, it was, oh my God. And they were orange and white, which was just bizarre.
Yeah.
And the day that I run track, I won the 100 metres for the first and only time. I stopped after that. But yeah. So for me, that drove okay, this is how good I can be actually if I commit to something. Yeah.
That was like sorry.
No, yeah,
that was kind of a stack of evidence in the back of your mind that, like, if you put the work in, eventually you're going to get the results.
Yeah, absolutely. I did then the same with ballet. I got into the London Ballet School. And yeah, it just, I suppose, went on and on until I found myself in a bit of a position where it was sort of, an element of it was knocked out of me. But this never left me. I was, no matter what situation I was in, I was somewhere different.
So just going back to that sort of with the sneakers, do you think there was an element of like manifestation where sort of at that point you were like, wow, the mind is powerful and I can have control?
Well, that didn't exist then, right?
Yeah,
I'm
because I was
going
going to
back
say, like, there was no sort of
and you know, I never watched anything. There wasn't, I don't think, YouTube then or anything like that.
Yeah.
You know, just really bad TV. But yeah, I suppose that's what did happen. I manifested those Reeboks.
Yeah.
I think I've still got them somewhere in a box that, you know, yeah. And my friend Kim always says to me today, I still can't believe you beat me. Like, she was the best and was the best for a very long time. And if you saw her, you'd see it. Okay, I understand why she was the perfect specimen for sport. But yeah, but I worked my mind, my body, and I believed in myself. That is the thing. It's belief. Because without that, you got nothing.
I totally agree with you.
Yeah.
Do you think sort of even in those times of adversity where you sort of came up against not only sort of obstacles or issues, but people in your life that try and manifest their problems onto you, and that's something you have to navigate? Do you think even in those worser times or those tougher times, I know that you sort of touched on it in previous podcasts where it was sort of late teens, early 20s where you were sort of involved with not so great situations. Do you think there was also a time there where there was still that self-belief, or do you think sort of in adversity it's so hard to pull yourself out of that because sometimes it can get so much and overwhelming? Do you think there was always that element of you inside you that
it never left?
It never left.
Ever. And I think that's why I'm still sitting here today.
Yeah.
Because you can take anything from me. You can take the clothes off me, you can beat me until I'm black and blue. But you'll never take my power away or my belief in myself, ever. Yeah. That never left.
That's incredible, because I think it's so easy for when sort of in the thick of it to be like, I'm not good enough, or having all of that evidence against you. And it comes from a place of like really digging deep, I think. And sort of going back to that, Tracey, would there be any sort of words of advice, or would you take any of that back, or does it just kind of stack up to just where you're at now?
I think if I was to give her any advice, it's 2 words: pay attention.
Yeah.
Be present. Pay attention to every word you say, how you think, feel, what your beliefs are about you. Just pay attention. Be aware.
But how do you get more aware of it? How do I get
paying attention?
Yeah, by paying attention. But by pausing and
absolutely.
How long should I pause in a day? Like if so the person who wants to get a bit more aware of the thoughts, the feelings, the things they say, actions, how they could start with? What it should start with?
Okay, so what I'll do is maybe give you some different examples of how pauses can be used.
Okay.
Of people that we know. So the amazing, love him or hate him, Elon Musk. If you've ever watched any of his interviews where he's being attacked by news and press, and there was one particular one where he was being attacked for the plummeting shares of Tesla, and you could see, and I'll send the clip to you, that inside he is bubbling. He's about to explode. And he literally pauses for 10 seconds. It was the longest pause, I think, ever on TV.
I think I know which clip you're talking about, because he said, "Give me money, give me power, I don't care." It's after that long pause. That's what he said from
Now,
a phrase from a movie.
Another one. So
Okay.
I think that's another one. But he pauses for 10 seconds. He looks away, which means he owns the power now in that entire room.
Mm-hmm.
In that pause, in that moment, he settled his emotion that he felt. He reframed it. He could then respond in a way that would show his power in the right way, where he didn't react. Not that it humiliated the person interviewing him, but he was cool, calm, and collected. People are too easy to react.
Totally agree.
It's so even in a deal, even traders, when they learn how to pause effectively, they will make better trades. And not just make a better trade. What is the emotion you're feeling before you make that trade? What's the insight? What's the data in that emotion telling you? When you understand that, then make the trade. But don't do it before. It can change a whole game. And, looking at pauses in sport, look at Simone Biles, what she's been through, in the Olympics 2020 and actually how she shifted in 2024. And she's standing there, pause. She looked at the beam, that's a cue. Self-talk, I've got this. Smiled for the crowd because that's what she needs to do. Focus, go, act. That's a pause. There's so many different pauses for different things. But you need to allow that pause to happen for it to work for you. Everyone's pause is different. Pausing meditation, just calming your mind, your body, just sitting still for 5 minutes can do so much. Just not responding for 5 seconds can be so impactful. Lots of different pauses for lots of different things.
It's
Fascinating.
so interesting. I think it's like, because it takes a level of self-awareness, but like you're saying, I find it so, in a world now where we're so quick to receive, react, and like consume information, I think there's this level where everyone kind of wants to be heard and understood right now.
Yeah.
So it's almost like we're living in a day and age where there isn't time to pause, and if you are pausing, it's sort of met with like, have I done something? And it sort of takes away from the present moment so much. But my question is, do you feel there needs to be some sense of level of awareness to be able to have the power to pause?
100%.
Yeah.
So in that moment, Elon knew if he did not pause, that response was not going to be good for him and his career and his brands.
Yeah.
Absolutely not. The same for Simone. And, it's the same for us. So, for example, before even getting out of bed in the morning, waking up and going, and you might have had a late night, feel exhausted, and you just wake up feeling like shit. Sorry, can I swear on?
Yeah,
Yeah, you
can.
can,
Go
can.
for it.
Feeling not so great. But something as simple as understanding and being aware of, I feel like shit. Something as simple as smiling, even forcing it, changes your whole physiology. Even as you sit and stand, like just that movement alone changes everything. And that's a pause. That's a pause because, and you know it with an action that's going to make you feel better. Or it could be, you know what, I don't feel great today. So I'm going to listen to something where I can mentally prepare myself. So I always say to people, have a success log. 3, 4, 5 things that your brain cannot deny. You know, it could be from winning the 100 meters at 50. Could be anything, winning a deal. Remind yourself and tap into the emotions of what you felt. That, you know, feeling proud of yourself, feeling accomplished, what you've achieved. And then when you tap into that emotion, say, I'm going to take that emotion with me today because that's me. And now I'm going to get out and do the best I can do today. But it's about taking those moments to pause, not opening your eyes, phone, email, you know.
It's almost like people kind of take themselves away from just having a moment with themselves.
Of course.
And because I struggle with that as well at times, you know, I, depending on the situation, like sometimes I'll get out of bed and I'll look at my phone, email and stuff, and I'm like, wait a second, I haven't even given myself any time to just check in with how I am today, let alone my loved ones.
Yeah.
And what kind of day am I starting, or what kind of intention am I giving, or purpose am I giving to myself? What kind of level of self-respect do I give if I can't even owe myself the attention or awareness to say, wait, how am I feeling? Because I think it's only then do you realize, okay, I'm capable of doing this today, and maybe I don't need to put so much pressure on. Do you find that a lot of the time that people, or supposedly like most common causes with your patients, are that they're not able to take the pressure off by being sort of high achievers, or those that you're sort of coaching?
I think they're too lost in the noise.
Yeah.
Like all of us, because it's go, 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 go. Always on, always on. It's like, just for a second. 1, remember how good you are. You didn't get here by accident. Look at all the things you've achieved. And again, just reflect on that and just take a minute. And even closing your eyes and just enjoying that moment and reliving that moment again and standing up tall, it's a game changer. Something just so simple, you know. It's just a different state, brain state that you go into when you stand differently. And focus, just change your brain state and focus on the thing you need to focus on. But do you know what? Also, give yourself a break when you need to. So if you're that self-aware, you will know that I need to take some time out. And to not be worried that it's all going to fall to shit. Like trust that actually you're going to get more from that than not doing it.
Yeah.
So interesting. So for the people who have that stack of evidence that they did good things in the past, they ran a 100-meter sprint, they won competitions, they closed the deal, but they still can't acknowledge the fact that the things that they achieved were good enough. How would you what would you recommend to these people saying that, like, no, these things are quite, how could I formalize that sentence? So how could you kind of recommend these people acknowledge the fact that no, the things that you achieved, they are good enough, and you can actually use that evidence for your future
Well, I think it's
tasks.
Have you picked things that are good enough as well, right? So, or have you just thought, yeah, I did that deal and that was great. Like, one, did you even acknowledge actually what it took to get that deal? So, and again, it's about tapping into the feeling. And especially in the sales world or any world where you win, you never ever celebrate. You're on to the next deal because of the next quarter and the next target. And again, it's like, reward yourself for a second and just enjoy the moment. Don't forget it. Sit there, tap into that. You achieved that. But also, there are people that have gone on to, win so many medals or become the best doctor, dentist, or whatever it might be in their profession.
Hey guys, your feedback is very important. And no, this is not an advertisement. Actually, what I'm asking from you is to leave a comment below what you liked and most importantly, what you disliked about this episode, because we can improve on the next episodes and we can make a better content for you to listen. Give us also a topics you'd like to us talking about and we can prepare, do your research and talk about it on the next episodes. Thank you.
And they still don't think that they're good enough. And this is because they haven't reminded themselves daily of how they got to where they are. So the brain loves negativity bias. So it's always going to give you the opposite. Whereas, well, I'm looking at facts. So brain, do one, because this is factual. And then it's about training your brain and your heart and your gut, the better brain, to acknowledge it and feel it, live it. We don't pause enough in these moments when we should to appreciate our fucking genius and how good we are. I make my daughter do it all the time.
I was literally just about to answer that question.
Yeah.
Is how for even children, like, because also, like, as a kid, I can imagine it's always on the go, right? My partner's nieces and nephew, like, watching them, they're just constantly assessing, analysing things, learning things, going outside, playing, eating. It's like amazing. It's incredible to watch. It's like, hang on a second, just pause a second or on a thought.
Yeah.
So how is it that you would, or if there's an example, are there ways that you sort of ground your daughter?
Yeah.
Or?
Well, listen, my daughter could do this job with her eyes closed already, and she only turned 6 like 2 weeks ago. And I'm not even joking.
Yeah.
She would sit here, and if you say to her, well, she must, are you feeling anxious? And sometimes, like, huh? But she said to her nanny the other day, she's like, do you feel okay, nanny? Have you got anxiety? And she went, oh, no, I don't. She's, what superhero would you be? And she was like, what? And my mother-in-law's looking at me like, what? And I was like, look, just go with it. And she's like, so when you get anxious, what are you thinking? Okay, where do you feel it in your body? And I'm like, this kid is... But because she doesn't learn, I don't look. She obviously absorbs what's going on.
Yeah, observes.
But she loves building little houses and things with Lego as well. And she said, "Mummy, let me take you through these rooms." I'm like, "Okay." She's like, "This is the thinking room." I'm like, "Okay, what do we think about?" She went, "We just be, we think." I'm like, "Okay." She said, "This is the quiet room." I was like, "What happens there?" She went, "We don't think." Okay. And this is the playroom. I'm like, "I like these rooms." Actually, if we all went back to being a child and curious again, then I think we'd all be better humans. But with her, we practice gratitude before she goes to bed. So she'll say 3 things that she's thankful for that day, and I'll say 3 things. Sometimes she wants to make it 5 because she wants to stay up later, but we do that. She'll use a certain word. So if it's a negative word, and then she'll catch herself, like, I can't do that. And this happened when she was riding her bike. So we came back from holiday and she's like, "Mummy, I can't do it. I can't do it. I can't do it." I said, "What do I tell you?" I said, "You need to train your brain. Your brain listens. Every bit in your body, every particle, bit of DNA, every cell listens to what you say. So tell it you can and you will." She was like, okay. So off she goes, I can. And she was riding her bike. And now she does this all the time. So she's just started in year 1. And there were a couple of children that were really upset And she took their hand and said, it's okay to be scared. Your brain's just telling you that you're scared, but really you're excited.
That's
so
amazing.
let's go in and I was like, oh,
Incredible.
You and I do say, yeah, her hands will shape the world somehow. Yeah.
It's amazing. Like even just like emotions, and I try and think back to sort of when I was registering emotions as a kid, I always just kind of used to see it in the reflection of what my parents were feeling. So if I saw an outburst from my dad or something like that, I would just assume that that's what anger is, instead of actually understanding that anger is something that's in motion, not necessarily a state of feeling. Do you ever run through sort of emotions and feelings with your daughter?
Yes, I have an emotional wheel that I use with my clients and my daughter.
That's awesome.
Because we need to call the emotion out.
Yeah.
We, again, and she could deflect by having a tantrum. It's like, what is it? Tell me, what is it you're feeling?
Yeah.
And she'll be like, I don't know, Mummy, it's in my stomach. And I'm like, okay, so what is that? She's like, I'm angry, or, I'm scared. So she's very highly sensitive. And I say that those are her superpowers.
Yeah.
So she can see and hear things that we cannot. Take from that what you will. But I've taught her to embrace that. Like, this isn't anything bad. This is a power that you have that others don't. And use it. And we could be shopping and she's like, Mummy, there's something really smelly. Don't go down that aisle. I'm like, well, I have to, and actually it's been someone that maybe needed to spray some deodorant, but she can smell it a mile off before you're even there. I'm like, okay, now I get what she means. I shouldn't have gone down that aisle.
The smell compass.
Yeah.
It's almost like intuition on another level.
Exactly.
Like I feel we are so quick to lose that sense of a completely different feel system. We're sort of so quick to have a situation that sort of we register in the brain, and then we attach emotion to that situation, but then we never sort of allow ourselves to really feel it and then give an actual intuitive response. I think a lot of the time, and I kind of find this sort of living and working sort of within the corporate realm of things, and even today, like coming here, I didn't want to have headphones in. I didn't want to shut myself away, because I like to try and put myself in a space of kind of feeling and understanding life more than just the day to day. From your experience and how you sort of work with your clients, how do you sort of get them to feel and understand themselves again? Is there sort of a process where you're like, do you find that a lot of the time they're not feeling with their gut, or they're not registering it with their heart, or their brain is not so connected?
Oh, listen, most people live in here.
Yeah.
They don't know what this and this is. And I always say, you don't have one brain, you have three. And the other two are more powerful than this one. So it's like you're looking at life, in 2D. And this is just controlling it. When you connect this and this, that's when you truly see life through a new lens.
Yeah.
Every area of life.
Would you say hypnotherapy helps you to kind of connect all of these different ways of thinking and feeling?
Yeah, I think so. And I suppose just going back to what you said before I go into that, it's when I work with anyone and us as just as humans, I think it's good to understand, like, what do we value?
Yeah.
What are our strengths and what are our weaknesses? I mean, I don't ever focus on weaknesses, because you shouldn't, I don't think. Focus on your strengths. But what do you value? And when people say, well, I value loyalty, I value, love, and it could be anything, what I find is that they value these things and do these things for other people, but they're not living their values. So that's where the disconnect is. You're telling me that you can't get up in the morning and go for that run that you've been wanting to do for the last 5 years, but you still can't just get out the door, and work has taken over. But you're loyal. Is that being loyal to you?
Yeah.
No. So it's just again, shifting how you think about something and owning it.
Yeah. Just, do you think that's because there's this feeling where people don't want to feel selfish, but I feel a lot of the time you need to be sort of selfish towards yourself in order to be selfless. So
Absolutely.
It's almost like giving yourself more time to be able to do the things that resonate and you enjoy and align with your values. I think I've also tried to speak for people that might have a hard time understanding what it is that they value for themselves because they're so quick to put other people in front of them.
Of course.
And I think we always try and do that because it's so easy to try and tender to someone else's needs without taking into consideration our own.
And it's also a deflection on you seeing and feeling it. Like it's another, and potentially could be how you self-sabotage too.
Yeah. Do you think that's why a lot of people don't want to pause or might refrain away from pausing?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, because in that pause is a story, a real one, an authentic one. And most people have had times in their life where they've been hurt and they don't ever want to go back to that pain again. They don't. But they're living it out every day, just in a different way.
Yeah.
And they never want to go back there, but you have to go back there to connect the dots and move into it instead of running away from it. Yeah.
Before we started this episode, we had a chat outside, and you mentioned that the people who know why they do things the way they do things usually are wrong.
Yeah.
So it directs them kind of to a wrong memory. So how do you go about connecting dots if the memory that you know, that you think that you know, is wrong?
Yeah. So what I do, I think I told you, I looked at lots of different therapies that I suppose I wanted to have in my toolkit to help people the best I could. And also experiencing it myself, I learned regressive hypnotherapy, which enabled me to get so many answers and connect the dots really quickly to why I think, feel and act the way that I do. If people, whatever you come to see me for or any regressive hypnotherapist for, but if you feel like you've got imposter syndrome or, I don't know, you're scared of flying or whatever that is, you need to get to the root cause of it. Or people that just live unhappy, like they wake up every day unfulfilled. They're going to their job. They should love it. They're getting paid tons. They've got a brilliant family. Like everything's going so well, but there's something that they can't tap into. They don't understand why. And that's where regressive hypnotherapy allows you to go deep into the subconscious part of the brain, to go to different scenes that we call them in your life that 9 times out of 10 you do not consciously remember. So out of maybe 4 scenes that I'll take anyone to, one of them is probably school. They would have remembered that anyway. The other 3, they'd be like, why did that come up? Oh my God. But when you start understanding the beliefs and emotions that come from that scene, then, you realise, well, so tell me, how did all of those beliefs and emotions form to your presenting problem today? And then it's like you've just got the answers in front of you and you're like, I didn't even connect any of these things. And that's the beauty of it. And then you get the program that you do want. So like upgrading your phone, right? If we don't upgrade it, then, it stays the same. And hypnotherapy, that's mental fitness. So yes, you can do a certain upgrade to that. But regressive hypnotherapy goes so much deeper. I've worked with many people on lots and lots of different things, but it allows you to get to the root cause quickly and to fix it quickly.
sorry, so it's a case of changing the response element. So something where a moment where it caused a trigger and you've been carrying that trigger and response due to that, and we're now going to sort of reprogram how in which you respond to that with something more positive.
Well, you know, with knowledge is power, right?
Yeah.
So once you understand where all of these things came from,
Yeah.
then you have the power to let them go and make a different choice and change. You didn't create that part of your program. The people that you surrounded yourself did, unfortunately. Like mums and dads, we all do it. Like we all make mistakes, you know, when we get ourselves in situations in schools and bullying and all this stuff goes on from so young. And as kids, we hear every word. Even as young as people being in the womb, you know, that if they're not wanted, they can relay that entire conversation. And then when they go and ask their parents, they are heartbroken because, you know, they're like, was that true? Did that? And they're like, yeah, sorry. Like, but you wouldn't think that that was what caused how they think, feel and act today.
Do you think they hear the conversations, or is the actual energy that they transition to these kids?
No, it depends, but I will be very specific with my questioning, so they can actually tell me what they're seeing. It could be nothing, but they'll almost feel that they're in a womb and they can hear the voice and the tone of their mum and dad or other people. Or it could be that they're in a room alone and so there's so many different things. Or it happens when you regress, you go back to a completely different lifetime, which is what happened just before I came here with my last client. Yeah.
It's so fascinating. Do you think self-judgment and self-doubt gets in the way a lot of the time?
Of course.
Clients? Yeah. Because
every person I meet has just requires validation from others. They don't validate themselves ever. They have a lot of self-doubt. They don't think that they're worthy. They don't believe they're good enough. Yeah, all very similar things.
And obviously you mentioned that you work with clients that are those that are high achievers or working in really great professions.
Yeah.
I don't think it's I guess it's having that as a stack of evidence and saying, look at everything that you've done, loving and appreciate that. But not only that, it's connections outside of that. Because I've always tried to view things where you're a part of a puzzle and you've got your career, your hobbies and interests, your friends and families, and then there's sort of you. And then we sort of never really have time to sort of understand who our whole puzzle piece is. And then a lot of the time we're sort of expecting people to fill it for us.
Yeah.
Like, for example, when you were sort of talking about how you identified a lot of your personality with your job or Tracey as your job, how is it that someone can get more of an understanding of themselves, not just from what they do or the people that they're with, but actually trying to have more of an awareness of themselves as a whole?
Yeah. I think it's just like going back to basics. Like, who am I?
Yeah.
Like, and sitting there writing it down. Like, who am I? What do I want? What do I value? You know, and just exploring and being curious again.
Yeah.
Like, so super curious. And I think that's why sometimes spending time with kids, they're like asking why, I think 200-300 times a day.
Yeah.
Like, ask why, keep asking why.
Yeah. And then it's also like establishing gratitude in that process.
Be present and in the moment. And that's, again, we worry about the past that's done. We worry about the future that's not happened yet. Today is really all we have. So, yeah, that's how I live.
Yeah.
I feel like, personally, I have moments where I'm super grateful of everything that happens in my life and around me. And there are some days when you kind of feel blue in a way and low and down. So I understand that as people, we kind of go through these phases where one day you may feel amazing and then the next day you don't. But how would you recommend for a person to stay positive and grateful even in those days that the shit hits the fan?
I think this is where, like, for me, when people say, you know, I'm going to make you more resilient, I think we wake up and have that choice to be more resilient today, and just today, for the next 24 hours. Right? We can't be positive all the time, but we can be grateful all the time. And we have the ability to move and change our physiology. But in the darkest moments, it's just finding that, you know, the minute I woke up, I took my first breath today. Like, wow, my body gave me that ability to do that. Some won't. It's finding, you know, the small things, just gratitude in the tiniest little things, the simple hello when you walk past someone on the way to wherever, you know, just that smile, just the tiny little things. But we can't be good all the time, but we can be aware all the time. We can pay attention all the time, because that's down to us, right? And it's about understanding your why. Why did Conrad not feel good today? And go deeper and deeper and get to the real reason of why that is. And then I say embrace it in a way. That one, you were that brave to go down that path, because many won't. You know, I don't want to know why. I just want to run off and drink a beer or whatever that is. Or for me, it used to be Pinot Noir. You know, if it was. It's about just being aware, and it's okay. It's okay not to be okay every day. And like, take that pressure off. Like, thanks, good, high five me. It's okay not to be okay, but it's not okay not to understand why. Like, always understand why, because then you can do something about it. And we can't always do it alone. We shouldn't do it alone. Like, we are better together. We're so much better together. So when you ever feel like that, just drop me a WhatsApp and go, Tracey, can you talk for 5? And I'm there for you. I'll drop you a couple of questions and we'll be good.
Okay, perfect.
Yeah, no, because I always try and find, and I'm always looking for either tools or techniques to, whether that's writing 3 things I'm grateful for, or like you were saying, like just taking a breath, or being able to say I love you, or even just having mum and dad in my phone and saying I can actually call that person, they're going to pick up, and I'm really grateful for that. I think a lot of the time we're so quick to needing to be grateful for things so much bigger and more than what we have. For someone that doesn't have, or for someone that's in the mindset of always chasing themselves 5 years ahead, or looking too far ahead, how can you sort of bring yourself back to, hang on a second,
well, it doesn't exist. Let's just put it out there. 5 years doesn't exist in 5 years' time. It's brilliant to have goals and things like that. But if that's too much pressure, just strip it right back to, you know, as much as you can deal with, one. But it hasn't happened yet. But today, the right now is happening. You said something there that resonated a bit with me about the love, and with your mum and dad on the phone. As I was growing up, a lot of my friends lost their parents quite young, so sort of my mum became their mum. And this is coming from, I suppose, a completely different perspective, and this is going back to reaction again. So there could be a time where someone says something to you and you do not like it, and you react. Or they say something to you and it just makes you so angry inside that you don't stop thinking about it. It could be someone that's walked into a restaurant and said, your food is awful, and you're your recovery rate is like a day or two.
Yeah.
You know, it's like, and that's not good for business or for you.
Yeah.
So there's a technique that I use, and it is like sending love, but it's just imagining yourself, closing your eyes, and just imagine your heart is sending them love, that person that has tried to get you into this particular headspace. And you'll feel that then is your power, because that doesn't hold on to you. It just calms everything down. Like, you know what, I'm okay.
Yeah.
So yeah, sending love is a very good technique to get yourself out of that state, for sure.
Do you know, it's funny you say that, because during a period right now in my work life, there was obstacles where it could have been so much worse had I reacted in a way that wasn't in a loving way. Because it was like, if I react to this as someone that's an arsehole, and rightfully so, I could easily do that, and no one will really turn a blind eye. Like, but I don't believe that for making the situation any better or myself. So I'm going to react in a way that's loving and positive, not only to that person, but also because it kind of awakens something in you, I feel. And I really resonate with that, because, and I have had that before with people being like, I don't, whatever, and I can take that really, really like personally, or I can take it professionally, but I think it's like such a greater form of self-love when you,
it is,
and it gives you back all the power.
It does, because you're not a victim of what they have said or how they've tried to, you know, they didn't come and stab you or something. You said something you didn't agree with, and all of a sudden you're really cool and calm. It's like, you know what, I'll send you love. I'm good. You can't affect me. You can't touch me.
Yeah.
And there's absolute power within that.
Are you familiar with Vipassana meditation by any chance?
The
Vipassana meditation.
Yes, but I probably say it different to you.
Okay, it's like Dharma, or I think it's Dharma. Anyway, I went to this meditation retreat probably now like 3 or 4 years ago.
Yeah.
It's like a 10-day retreat where you can't use your phone, you can't talk to anyone. It's just 11 hours meditating every day. And basically, the instructor of this whole project told us that if the person kind of disagrees with you or even offends you, they kind of carries the knife inside their heart and they're trying to stab you as well. But use the same method that you just explained, kind of send them love. And at the same time, you're going to feel a lot better, and they're going to feel better because energy's transitioning. So you just kind of reminded me
and it's a superpower, because actually you don't know what happened to them that morning, right? And we never know, and all of a sudden then you're the target. But then if you react in the wrong way, then you're a victim of that, and then it's the domino effect again. You're gonna go home, shout at your missus or whatever that is, and it's just this effect that you don't want at all. And that's why things like that, and even when we're fearful of things, it's like feel that fear. Don't deny it. Don't turn it away. Like, feel it so much and welcome it, embrace it, lean into it, and let it spit you out on the other side. There's so many different techniques.
Interesting. You touched on the fear a bit, and so when I was in Thailand, I used to train Muay Thai, and then used to have fights, and before the fights, I used to be terrified. I was just shit my pants, and that's okay. I understand that fear is kind of preparing me for the fight, for what's coming.
Sure.
But just by leaning into that, it never really gone away. And as an example, if you're going through some terrible stuff in your life and you're fearful of what's coming, what does by leaning into the fear help me to kind of uncover?
Again, the reasons behind the fear.
The reasons behind it.
And also makes you resilient to fear. That no matter the result, I stepped into it anyway. And I don't know what Have we got time for me just to tell a story?
Yeah,
Absolutely,
please do.
as much
Yeah.
as you
Okay,
want.
so you were obviously saying about when you're about to go into the fight and feeling fear.
Mm-hmm.
And it's sort of that thing, isn't it? Like feeling the fear, but doing it anyway. But also
Yeah.
feeling the fear and not reacting impulsively.
Mm-hmm.
Mm.
And that's where like times of pause can be quite reflective. So if I take you back to a time when, this is 24 years ago now, I think I wrote about something on it on LinkedIn the other day on my birthday. I was babysitting and I'd just come out of the shower, laid down on the sofa, watching TV. The lights went out. I was literally just texting my mum to say, I'll see you tomorrow morning. Lights went out, TV went off. I don't know where anything is, like in this place. And the next thing, the back door came in. A gun was held at my head and the towel was ripped from me and I was on the floor. The front door also came in with another person with another gun. In that moment, and I live this a lot. I review it. I don't relive it, I review it. Because in that state, when someone is holding, not just one gun, really, 2 guns to your head, you're completely naked. Who has the power in that room?
Mm.
They think it's them. And actually, for a while, I also thought it was them. But I didn't react. I just paused and calmly said that I'm the babysitter. I don't know what you want or what you're here for, but I can't give it to you. And, you know, with other conversation that happened, if I'd have reacted, I would have been shot that night. But not just that. The 2-year-old and 4-year-old that were down the corridor, I don't know what would have happened. But in that moment, I knew I wasn't going to die. And again, this is just don't react, because either way, you still have the power. You're actually okay if the trigger gets pulled,
Yeah.
and you're okay if it doesn't. And I was okay with that. I just knew that if I reacted, if I wasn't calm, if I didn't make them feel that they were in control, there was going to be a problem.
Mm.
And was I feeling fear? Abso-fucking-lutely. But did I express it as that? No. And I think, you know, when I look back at stories and people that I've worked with, and we were talking about one of them earlier, you know, a friend of mine who's now a friend, you know, he'd been in prison for a long time. There's sometimes pauses we don't want. Mm-hmm. Me being held at gunpoint was one of them. You know, my friend Darren, who's now in a wheelchair, he had the pause of his life. He'd never walk again. You know, Abs being in prison because of his actions, but pausing long enough to relearn, to understand a food system, a supply chain, to come out with nothing and start a company which was like, there's power in these times of fear.
Yeah.
But pause long enough to understand it and to make it work for you and not against you. Yeah.
Thank you for sharing. It's incredibly inspiring to hear, because I feel when life's or moments of impact where it can feel so chaotic that all you can do is react, I almost feel it takes not only people off guard in that situation, I can imagine, but it's sort of almost this sort, because I've had it with moments of pause too, where there's this sort of transcending feeling of, actually, no, I get to decide.
Perfect. Exactly. Yeah. You have a choice.
Yeah. And I think a lot of the time in chaotic moments, we're so quick to feel like we haven't got a choice. Do you think a lot of that came from your experience when, because I know you've spoken about an ex-partner of yours that was so toxic and controlling and someone that was trying to create chaos in your life. Do you think that you being able to have control by not reacting or giving them the satisfaction in those moments of pause, that allowed you to say, I know who I am and you can't take that away from me?
Yeah, and that was how I owned my power.
Yeah.
And never lost control. There was a moment where I thought, how much more can I actually take? And actually, it wasn't about me. How much more can my family take? How much more can my friends take that happen to move out of the country? Like, this is not fair on them, you know? And actually, doing the worst, I felt it was better for everyone else around me. However, as I said, I used to sing and do different things. I've always been a bit of a performer, but in that particular apartment flat, I sat in the bath that night and sang until the bath went completely cold. I'd already written my note. I knew what was going to happen when I stepped out of that bath. But in that moment of pause before I did, I thought, I'm going to sing one last song that I love. It was Hero by Mariah Carey, and I can't say the lyrics because you'll get done. But if you look at those lyrics, I was the hero inside, and I was the one that could get me out of this. And I just thought in that moment, I'm not going to let you take anything more from me. Kill me the minute I walk outside this door tomorrow, fair enough. But I'm not doing it, so bring it on. So there are moments, you know, and that was one moment. I've never been back to that place ever again. But yeah.
Incredible. Thank you again for
That's
sharing.
okay.
No, it's just, again, like, I feel so many people are so quick to give power away, and hearing your story and being so inspired by your story, you've allowed, I feel, people to take control and also have the power back. And I think in a moment where, or in a life, society where we're so quick to not give ourselves that space, I feel you're really at the forefront of creating that for people. And I believe that is what people need more now than ever, is taking more control and awareness for themselves and actually saying, I have a life that I'm in control of and I'm prepared to live it regardless of what's in front of me, and guarantee that not every day is supposed to be happy or great, you know, that what life is living if we don't have problems, but on the whole to say, actually, I get to decide, I think is something that people need to hear more. So I can't thank you enough for that.
Thank you. We get a choice. We get to master. We get to determine our own journey. If you just close the noise of expectation, what you should be doing, for a minute, and just go, I get to make this choice. Irrelevant of the outcome, I get to make it. And I mean, what better gift is that? But you have to believe, and experience, and as I say before, just go after it all, because you'll regret it at the end if you don't. You know, so many things, but just have the belief that you can, and 9 times out of 10 you will.
Would you change anything from whatever happened in your life?
No. You know, people have asked me that so many times. My friend said to me the other day when we were away, she said, you know, you need to write a book. And I was like, oh, I don't know. She said, you've had so many lives. You know, she said we should call it Many Lives, Many Lessons.
I'd buy it personally.
Yeah. And I was like, yeah, I've always wanted to do it. But even in moments like today, or how I am with my daughter, or how I am with people, any human, like if I hadn't, you know, I've sort of had the luxury of being in the criminal mind, which has allowed me to also be in so many others, but really understand, and also my own, that if I changed that, then I wouldn't be who I am today. Yes, and I never forget laying there the night before my 21st birthday, and I thought, why me? Why is this happening to me? And I just thought there has to be a bigger purpose.
Yeah.
For some reason, I have to go through this.
Yeah.
I don't know what the answer is, but let's go on for the ride. Let's do it.
It feels like a lot of people kind of put themselves in that position, like victim mentality, when they say, oh, why me? Why did this happen to me? But I guess that opportunity, that situation that you are in is an opportunity for you to kind of grow and become a better person. I remember when I was in Thailand again, I had this, it's a very interesting story, and I feel that's why I started to kind of get myself more into religion and believe in God, because it was, so I had a situation where I was supposed to fight in a couple of weeks, and 2 weeks before that, I decided to pray. And on Tuesday I said, God, please provide me with challenges and test me. And then the next day, this girl from the gym messaged me in the evening asking if I could step in on very short notice on 2 days and fight this guy on Friday. So it was Wednesday, if I can do it on Friday. And my initial reaction was like, no, like there's no way I'm going to do this, because I'm anticipating that fight in 2 weeks and I'm already scared. And now I have to do this in 2 days. So my initial reaction was like, no, I'm not going to do it. But then I feel like I paused in that moment, because I realized, well, 2 days ago you prayed and asked for that challenge and it came. So what are you going to do now? And I feel like if I would have not taken it, so I ended up taking that fight, I won. But if I would have not taken it, what does that tell about me as a person? So pausing definitely.
So you were meant to take that pause. I think we start to notice that, right?
Yeah. Another part I find really inspiring about your story, sorry, I know we are going to wrap up soon. Criminal mind, normal mind. You have a really amazing ability not to judge either, because I think it's allowed you to really understand yourself fully.
Yeah,
and
absolutely.
I think a lot of that has allowed you to produce so much of your story in order for others to hear it and resonate with it and provide so much good. And that was kind of something that I think we're so quick to do, is judge ourselves, because it doesn't allow us to fully become aware. And I think you're such a advocate of that. But I know we're going to wrap up there. So thank you so much for coming on.
Thank
it's been
you
amazing.
for having me.
Yeah.
Pause more.
Pause more.
I will do.
100%.
Definitely.
Where can people find you?
Well, you can find me a lot on LinkedIn,
Okay.
so I'll give you more details there. But the company is thepauseeffect.co. I host a workshop called Pause to Perform, and one is Pause to Power, which kicks off next year.
Amazing.
So,
Cool.
Perfect. Thank you very much.
Thank you so
Thank
much
you.
for coming on.
Thank you so much.
Brilliant. Yeah, awesome.
That
See
was
you guys
amazing.
in the next one.